Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Okay.
When we
I
had
won't hold it against you.
when we had a Republican governor for 8 years ago, those medical organizations, by and large, went along with what the Republican governor wanted to do. And now we have a Democrat governor, and they're going along, by and large, with what a Democrat governor wants to do. And so you can read between the lines there that they don't want to. They don't want to be on the wrong side of the governor of the state. It doesn't really matter which party the person is from. I mean, just as an example, yesterday we had the Milwaukee Chamber of Commerce, which is called Metro Milwaukee Association of Commerce, or MMAC. They came out and told our governor that it's time to start reopening the state. And they were one of the ones that our governor claimed was the original reason that he locked the state down. As he said, he met with business leaders, and we found out later on that business leaders meant this Milwaukee Chamber of Commerce, and that they had encouraged him that, yeah, we think we need to do this. Well, now here we are 8 weeks later, whatever it is, they changed their mind, and they get apparently a nasty phone call from the governor after this saying, hey, what's the deal here? What's changed? I thought you were supporting me. And so there's that kind of almost intimidation-like tactic that goes on for anybody who crosses what the governor wants to do. I'm sure that the medical community doesn't care to want to have to deal with that. And they also have the whole Hippocratic Oath thing where that's great that they want to protect people. But on the other hand, we have to be reasonable. And these medical organizations also have to understand, maybe Ohio is experiencing the same thing. Our hospitals are empty
100%.
because they're not doing other stuff. I just checked the numbers. I'm in Fond du Lac County, which is just south of Oshkosh. And I just checked this morning our county numbers. We have a population in our county of approximately 100,000 people. How many people did you guess we have in the hospital with COVID-19?
13.
Two.
Our numbers are crazy small. In Appleton, when Appleton posts how many people are infected, when they in 6 weeks said, oh, we have 8 people that have now tested positive, people were livid.
Yeah,
livid.
100,000 people, you got to figure maybe 20,000 of those are age 18 and under. I'm just kind of guessing there. And a heavy percentage of those are involved in athletics in some sort of way. And so let's just roughly say a quarter of them. So let's say we've got 5,000 kids alone in Fond du Lac County who are cooped up in their houses, can't go to school, can't even go play one-on-one out on the playground without having the policeman come and shoo them away because there are 2 people in the hospital in the whole county.
Yeah.
So it's the numbers pointing our direction are staggering, and I don't quite get why our medical community can't see this for what it is. So I think that that would be my suggestion of what to do is for Lisa to circulate that, have another meeting, and I guess I don't know if you want me involved in the meeting. It would be best if my influence wasn't on the document that you approve from all those different organizations, because it needs to look like it comes from normal people, not politicians.
Right.
And
I thought you saying having somebody from the medical community sign off on it though would be wise to
yes,
say we're banding together and somebody from the medical, and then bring it to you for you to bring it elsewhere.
Yeah, so all of your sports directors, and I would highly recommend that you come up with some positions of some sort, somebody who has worked with youth sports, maybe some athletic trainers, people of that nature. And you deal with a lot of people like that in your organizations.
Yeah, we have a number of connections we can go to.
So, and even and if particularly if there was an organization, there's like a physical therapists organization out there. There are athletic trainer organizations out there. If you could get an organization like that to weigh in also, that they would think this would be a good plan. And ultimately, we've got this court case going on, and we're hoping that the court case will be decided in our direction. We're pretty sure we're going to win the case, but it's a matter of when it's going to happen. I'm hoping we'll hear something today. I would think by Monday for sure we'd hear something, but nobody can make a court move faster than they want. But presumably we win that case. Then the details of what their decision kick in, because technically Wisconsin would reopen at midnight Monday, or is that midnight Tuesday? I guess midnight's really the next day, isn't it? So,
Right.
so midnight would be Tuesday. So between the 11th and the 12th, the emergency expire. And when the emergency expires, technically the state reopens. Everything should be back to normal. But in the lawsuit, I think as I explained on the call, there was a request for a 6-day delay in implementing that, so some additional rules could be put forward. And so that's why it would be pretty important to try to get some here as quick as you can, because if that 6-day period is implemented, so let's say a decision comes out today and the court agrees, okay, we aren't going to enforce this injunction against the governor's rule for 6 days as you requested. That gives next week as your opportunity, and it doesn't mean you couldn't do it after that. But if you want to strike while the iron is hot, this means that we would need to get something in the hands of legislative leaders and the governor's office within that next week, so that we can try to get that to be part of the reopening plan that would be brought forward. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Woo! Nothing like tight deadlines.
And the plan that you put together, you said it primarily is aimed at indoor sports.
I just actually sent you both the plan via email. I'm
Okay.
not sure if you can pull it up here, Lisa. I don't know how to do that. I was trying to figure out how to pull it up on a
Yeah, there
share
should
screen.
be. There should
Yes, I got it.
be share screen on the bottom of your toolbar.
Yeah, I see that, but when I go there, it's not in my. I still have a flip phone. I'm sorry, I'm not great at technology.
Okay, I'll do it for you. That's okay. So you sent it to me. Let me just download it quick. And
So this is actually what we're doing in our state. We're doing by sports specific. So I'm working on the volleyball one today. It's gonna look very similar to the basketball one, just a couple of nuance changes. But it's going to be a very, very similar document for that, for futsal, for all indoor sports. So it's not a big departure from that. Last night we had, all the health people were on our call, and it was very interesting how far one direction they were. They had a position where when we first started, they wanted face mask on every participant, every player, every coach. Basically, they wanted a face mask. They wanted the face mask to stay on the whole time, so like a face cover. After we got done, I called our task force leader and said, I'm just shocked that you're gonna let somebody play a cardiovascular sport like football or basketball or soccer with a face mask on. They won't be able to breathe. That's not good for people. Like, these kids aren't built for this. So they're actually calling the head of the university hospitals, the head of pediatrics was on our call, but he got off at the very end before I asked my last question. And, we're going to get his 2 cents. He's the Browns team doctor and the Cavs team doctor. So I know he's going to come back and say that this doesn't make any sense. So basically our liaison, our task force director, he has direct access to the governor. He's working on the big space venues, like Indian Stadium or the Red Stadium. He has a task force for that. He headed up to our business task force that already is, pushing businesses back to work, across the state. So he said what he does is he has a plan that is like what I have here, that's realistic, that can be done. And then I have a second, he puts some notes in there what the health department would like to see. And then puts it in front of the governor, and the governor makes that final call. Here's what we think we can implement today. Here's what the health department would like to add to this that we don't really think can be implemented. So then the governor makes his final assessment of, okay, here's how we're going to the public. Here's what we're going to tell them that we need to do. So just to give you some background, both you guys, kind of how the sausage is being made in our state from this level of the task force. So it starts with employees. We can run through this quickly. You guys, we have this for every single sport. I have the baseball, softball ones on my computer already. Golf's already approved. It's the indoor sports that we're having, or I should say the contact sports that we're having to spend some more time on. So it lays it out. You have your employees, what the employees are mandatory told to do and asked to do. Then we have a separate category that's called best practices. That's if another level of mitigation is on the best practices. They want to make sure we have two different levels. So someone like myself that might be able to implement the whole plan, I can do that. But someone like Lisa that couldn't implement the whole plan, she only got to do the mandatory part. So that way we just have two different levels basically inside of this plan.
So Tucker, is this, I just clicked on my screen to try to go back to the previous one and realized
Lisa's controlling that right now.
Couldn't do that.
So Lisa's controlling our screen right now.
So this is, okay, this is basketball specific. Okay.
It's basketball, but really indoor sports specific. And you'll see, you want to go to the third page there, Lisa? So we talked about the spectators, but if I showed you an outdoor sport, it's not a lot different. Just outdoor sports have a lot more area to work with. So it's a lot easier to space and some other things. Like we spent a lot of time on the call yesterday talking about, temperature. We took a lot of, where's the umpire stand in baseball? Should be 2 feet behind the catcher, should be behind the pitcher. Those type of things were discussed. The dugouts, do all the kids got a social distance while in the dugouts? So getting down in some of the minutia, but at the same time, this is kind of a generic document that, covers the big areas, but the real granular stuff, they're trying to stay out of, knowing that rec department just can't execute that plan.
One thing here, just for Lisa in particular, if Wisconsin were to bring this forward, that first one where it says ensure minimum 6 feet between spectators when entering and viewing, some sort of concession could be made for families there. If you're a family unit, you can sit closer together.
Yeah, I think this was in reviewing your document for Run for the Roses, Tucker. I saw, or Nike's, I'm not sure. I saw a number that capped the number of spectators that a team could bring in, whether they were called chaperones or whatever. But
that was AAU's plan.
Was that AAU? And it said like
yeah.
12 per team.
10 chaperones, 15 players, and 5 coaches. It was 30 people per team was their number.
Yes. And so that was like, well, that really averages out to be only one person for that athlete that they could bring in from their family. So if something like that was mandatory or put in place, you wouldn't be bringing your whole family. So I guess, like you said, so do you have that anything in this?
Yeah, when you go down, so let's go from spectators to the next slide there, please.
Okay. Looks like it. I usually use a different one.
And talk about players, referees, scorekeepers, and coaches. Basically the same information. They got to do their daily assessment, the water deal, stay away from each other. We talk about face coverings when entering and exiting the building, but not while playing games for the referees, scorekeepers, and coaches. And then, the best practices, we talk about providing information for contact tracing. That's something last night on our call, we didn't actually get into contact tracing, but we've got a whole contact tracing technology system built into, our goal for our company is and part of it is liability and part of it's other things, but when somebody walks in, every single person has a QR code. So a player, a coach, and it'll make sure that they read the best practices for COVID-19. They understand what a daily symptom assessment is, and it has a waiver tied to it. So at that point, anyone that walks in that facility will have full information on. So if it does come out that, 12 days later, someone from the tournament has COVID, we can drill down and say, okay, it was 11 o'clock and a 12 o'clock game. Here's the other people that were in the building at the same time. So we're taking it to a way more granular level than most people want to take. But I figure we're better to go beyond than the other way. But like I said, rec departments aren't built for that. And when I started to mention this in the phone call, you could hear them all starting to shaking their boots, like, how are we going to do that with what we do?
So Tucker, is there a software technology out there that anybody could pick up right now and implement?
Yeah, we're actually, like I said, I truly have a flip phone, but I have 2 really good technology people on my team. So they're putting the whole process together for that and build that whole piece out for us.
So you have programmers that are doing that?
I have 1 programmer,
Huh.
so he takes pieces from other things that are open source, and then he dives them into what we want to create. And just so we have all the information that we need, and we can easily put it in the places where we can find it. So you want to go to the next page, Lisa?
Sure.
Now this would be the facility. So physical spaces would be actually the facility side of things. So the facility, these are things that we're mandating the facility does. Ensure people are 6 feet apart. If not, install barriers, post signage. We talk about maximum capacity of 50% right off the bat. So if the fire marshal says 384 people can be in a building, divide that by 2, and that's what you get for your maximum capacity numbers. Get rid of concession stands and self-service. Product samples, close once a week for a deep clean. Promote social distancing when people walk in. No bleacher seating, only chair seating. No group water. Create minimal amount of space between each court, and also protective barriers to separate front table staff from entrance. And then the best practice goes to the contactless payment systems. Create separate entrances and exits for all, for the facility. Eliminate common areas for people to congregate, and I have extra facial coverings on site to provide.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives you kind of, an overview and a foundation to start a conversation for a facility, what they would need to do. And, I think the facility side in Ohio, and I'm going to recommend to our task forces, is that every facility that wants to hold games in the summer, actually there's an application to do that, to show that they're meeting these criteria. Not sure if the government will say yes to that. But it's a lot better than, the health department coming in and saying, hey, all these things aren't done and you're shut down. You want to go to the next page, Lisa, please?
Sure.
And this would be the event administrator. So, Lisa's running an event in her state, or Mary Nellen or myself, or this is what the event operator has to look for. So this is their world. They got to make sure they have the information for contact tracing. They have the capacity of 50% in the beginning. Clear the benches, sanitize the balls. Make sure that at the end of a block schedule, the teams leave the facility. No handshaking, no sharing water bottles, and then enforce the mandatory entire time for spectators, scorekeepers, employees, and the mandatory except when playing for referees, coaches, and players. And then the best practice on the side would be, all transactions financially online, block scheduling, no on-site vendors, log signed waiver on COVID-19, and understanding how to conduct a daily system assessment, touchless entry, and have face coverings on site to provide. And this is actually practice. So I added this morning, this slide, because last night in the call, baseball and some other sports are really differentiating between game play and practice play. So here's what we came up with for the practice play. Not as many requirements, because it's a very different type of environment, but still some things that need to be done for it to be done correctly, and then to adhere to our policies. And then the last page is just a contact tracing page. Like I said, we didn't discuss it, but it's a thing everyone keeps talking about. We need more testing, and everyone's got to do contact tracing. So here's information that we're asking for everybody, whether it's a spectator, a coach, a referee, a scorekeeper, or a participant. We're asking for all this data upon entering the building. And that includes that, the waiver and all those other pieces, what we're doing as a company. And this is what we're recommending that, people contact trace at this level. And it seems to be a big term, like common areas, PPE, contact tracing, those are all social distancing, all big terms that you keep hearing. So we're trying to tackle this, even though golf really didn't tackle it in their proposal, but golf's a very different beast than basketball is, I think.
Yes, contact sport.
Yeah. So it gives you kind of a feel for what we're doing, and that's across every sport. I'll have volleyball done today. We just want to give you guys a feel for kind of a direction and how we're making the sausage, what the sausage looks like, just so as you guys start to march down the road in your state, you start to get a feel for some of the things that we're starting to put together in some of these other states.
Tucker, do you have maybe I can pull it up, your footprint, the visual? Didn't you send like a diagram?
That was for Run for Roses, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel I can. Do you want me to pull that up just so you can give?
Sure.
Man. Oh, here. Yeah. Coronavirus concerns. Can you guys see my screen still with the Run for the Roses? Maybe you can't. Hold on. Nope.
No, that's it.
No, okay, here it is. So this is a document that Tucker had sent out to those who were registered for his tournament, this specific one that our athletes or teams go to in July, to share, I guess, Tucker, you can take over, share adjustments they're making or have made.
Yeah. So this is kind of where my mind was at when, a lot of people were discussing all these different things, and we went over the top. We decided to put out a whole spec, and the positive feedback we got was great. This is kind of a marketing piece, but it's very accurate what we're trying to accomplish. And, as people, like in Wisconsin, everyone's getting beat on the head. In Ohio, we're getting beat on the head. Everything was so bad for so long. I felt like something positive had to go out to give people some hope. So this is kind of the beginning of a larger mitigation plan, which is what the state has now. But this kind of guy's moving down a direction. And, like you see in the 2019 seating, how it was laid out versus 2020, just so people have some assurance that when they show up, we're going to do things right. We're going to make sure that, everything that the CDC and people are recommending is done at whatever level we can do it at. But this would be kind of, as a task force, as we push things out to facilities, we want every facility to think this way also. And that's what I talked about with our task force mandating that people turn in to the state, what they're going to do on site. I know they're not making do that for other businesses, but this is youth, and I know they look at it a little differently. So I think it's important that we put something out that shows people an example of right versus wrong, and then they can start to implement that right setup inside their facility until we're fully open. You go down really so you don't mind here. So that was last year's footprint right here, 74 courts. This year's footprint is a 51 courts, looks very different, a lot of social spacing. There's 30 feet between every court, so a lot of distance versus what we had in the past. And we talk about taking the temperature of every single attendee. 100.4 degrees is the maximum number you can have for you to play. And then we do that through a whole another thermal imaging technology. I don't know if it's in this plan, but and on a master plan it's in there of showing how the thermal imaging technology actually works.
How long does it take to do that thermal image temperature?
Which part of it, the setup or going through it?
Just each person going through it.
Just like walking through a line, you never stop.
Really? Okay.
It all
So it's pretty
happens
much instantaneous. Then.
instantaneously. As soon as you get within reach of that camera, it creates a square around your head and focuses on your forehead and shoots that temperature, and then we see it on our screen in real time what your temperature at that point is exactly.
Okay.
What's the
Where did you
technology?
come up with the 100.4 degrees?
That's what the CDC had recommended for fever and some other studies I'd seen. So the 100.4 is what I kept seeing across all the different medical experts.
What technology is that you're using?
That technology is actually it's a camera. So a real quick story, I was involved with the WEAK technology a long time ago. We took it and put it in the concussion. So I was a CEO of a return to play company that did technology. And so we've then modified that camera and that application to do the same thing for thermal imaging.
And is that something somebody can purchase?
Yeah, I mean, literally it's all being developed right this second. I mean, I don't know if you saw, Lisa, the thing I sent out on Twitter that showed the technology and how it works. And in real time, what goes on. I can send you guys that little snippet too. You can look at it when we're done. But yeah, it's about 20,000 a camera, and it comes with a camera, comes with a dead body camera, and then some other software that goes along with it. But yeah, it's about 20 grand per pop. So for Run for Roses, I need 9 of them.
Wow.
So, not something I'm buying up front, but something I'm working with another company about doing a lease deal in the beginning, like a lease to purchase type deal if this goes beyond this.
Mhm.
But we have to use this for years and years and years. But yeah, the technology is definitely out there.
Okay.
And that might be something where I would suspect there are a lot of businesses, particularly factories, who are going to be buying stuff like that. I think in Fond du Lac here, where we're at world headquarters of Mercury Marine that employs like 2,500 people, and they've got long lines of people showing up for work every day. I could see them having this sort of technology so they can get people in and out or into the business that much more quickly. There might be opportunity out there for somebody who knows a business that has some of this technology to perhaps loan it out for a weekend, so that you don't have to, because you said what, $20,000 for one of those?
Yeah, for the whole system with the monitoring, with this whole system, about $20,000 to do it right.
Tucker, as for revenue out of these things, is generally you're making your revenue off concessions and entry fees, presumably.
Like an event like this, I have nothing to do with concessions, nothing to do with parking. Our fees are the registration fee. We have the spectator entrance fee. You have the concession we don't touch, but we have like a T-shirt thing. We'll get a percentage of that from the T-shirt vendor.
Okay.
And then we have a college coaches packet that we sell to college coaches. So that's our 4 major ways of making revenue in these events.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of when somebody comes into the facility and they have to sign up, because a lot of people are going to be sensitive because they think Big Brother is trying to follow them. And in this case, in terms of contact tracing, they might be, because we're starting to get, our governor wants 1,000 tracers hired by the state.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the application, somebody sent it to me this morning, and immediately there were outcries of, oh, they're just trying to track us, they're trying to follow us, this is unconstitutional, et cetera, et cetera. So now if somebody's coming into a private event, you certainly have the right to demand that information because you have rented the facility out, it's your event, you can decide who gets to be there and who doesn't get to be there within normal laws that would apply. But I think that your case is stronger if an admission fee is actually charged to come in, whereas it's not just open to the public for anybody to stroll in there and watch a few games, even if it's even if it's $1 to have to charge somebody to come in. You can at least say, hey, you got to pay to come in here. We've got this facility rented. You do not have a right to not give us this information.
Yep.
Either you got to turn it over and give us $1, or you can't come in.
No, you're 100% right.
Because if you just make it free, and I guess I'm talking to Lisa here too. I don't know.
Nope.
My son.
Admissions is one way that we can pull in revenue.
Yeah, and I mean, and if that's a heavy source of income already, there are obviously going to be fewer people coming.
Right.
As a result of all this.
It's a concern.
And so that might be a reason to up registration fees for the teams of some sort. I can remember when I ran basketball tournaments back when I was a school athletic director, and I just decided I didn't want to mess with charging people coming in, and so I just boosted the team registration fees, and then I didn't have to mess with that anymore. But in this case, I would think that registration fee is going to be kind of the admission fee is going to be a way of thinning your crowd out.
No doubt.
If that's something you don't normally charge.
Yeah, we do charge in now that in these new days, like you mentioned yesterday about insurance, knowing that we're not covered by insurance. I have 2 pending lawsuits in court right now, one in New York and one in Kentucky. One was a shooting where a father-in-law was killed by his son-in-law outside in a parking lot, and you get dragged into court. Another person, a lady, steps off a court and falls down and breaks her hip. So knowing that it's easy to sue those type of things, and this COVID thing is but in those areas I had insurance to cover it, so they're paying the bill. Knowing that in this world that we're not covered by insurance with all this virus implications, we have to have these. Literally everyone has to sign a waiver. You can't just walk around and assume people are going to do the right thing when you know that I'm going to be personally paying, or my company's going to be personally paying, or Lisa's company to be personally paying to defend ourselves, when we know we're going to win in court, what's going to cost us $25,000 to $100,000 to win.
Tucker, so you've obviously gone to your insurance agent or company and found that they are not going to cover COVID cases?
No one's covering COVID. Yeah, no insurance in the country's covering it.
Yeah, there's going to have to be, I know Mitch McConnell in the U.S. Senate has said there will be no additional stimulus bills passed out of Congress unless there is some sort of liability insurance waivers for business. He said that a few weeks ago, and the most recent news on that was that they're negotiating about how they're going to slim some of that back. The Democrats don't want to give anybody any liability waivers. And so I think what ultimately comes out of that, if they pass a bill, is there will be some sort of limited liability that will be applied. And I don't know if it'll be limited by the amount or if it'll be limited by a certain type of business. But individual states, I know that's a discussion here in Wisconsin as well, that if we were to do some additional policy changes on that. We've already given waivers to a great deal of the medical providers. If they make mistakes, honest mistakes in dealing with COVID-19, that they're being given some liability because of that. But that would be something that should perhaps be given a wider spectrum across all the businesses as well, just to encourage people to encourage the businesses to open, frankly.
Yeah.
Because if they have that fear, they're not going to do it.
It's a real fear too. It's no, knowing that, like I said, I've been to court too many times with just these frivolous cases that you can't do anything about. You can't control a parking lot, but someone's going to get sued.
Yeah, well, and there are those people out there who just do this as a pastime.
Yes, you're right.
and they can destroy your life, even though you're found to be not guilty. You know, as we saw yesterday with General Flynn, where he suddenly was
Mhm.
found to be, oh yeah, we're not going to bother anymore. Sorry that we destroyed your life. But
Yeah, 3 years of your life we took away. It doesn't make any sense.
yeah, well, your plan is thorough. I think that says a lot that you're dedicated not only to helping kids, but to do this in a safe fashion. I think there are some flexibilities there. You know, you have your mandatory and then your best practice, so the organizations can certainly go the extra mile if they want. But if there's like a minimum standard that is set, I think that's good. That's the same thing I suggested to our county task force the other day when they were floundering as to what they should do. And we said, just come up with a minimum set of standards that anybody who wants to go into a business in Fond du Lac County can expect that A, B, C, and D, and E are being done.
Yep.
And if you want to do more than that, great, that's up to you. As far as approvals, and speaking mostly to Lisa here, one of the concerns we have if we win the lawsuit is that a lot of these county health officers will just simply turn around and say, okay, well, we don't have a statewide lockdown anymore, but I'm going to lock down my county.
Hmm.
Which really is the kind of the same thing. This is an unelected bureaucrat who would be locking down a county instead of an unelected bureaucrat locking down the state, which is the situation that we're in right now.
Right.
Through the Department of Health Services. So, and the reason I bring that up is in terms of approval of an event. So let's say I'll use Cheryl Moore as an example here in Fond du Lac. If she wants to run a higher level camps tournament at Fond du Lac High School, where would she go for approval? Or does she just simply she just assumes she has approval unless told otherwise? Or is that going to be something that I don't think the state can really do that, because there are just too many events that are going to be attempted, and I wouldn't trust the state to get to it in a reasonably timely fashion. So I would think that a suggestion as part of this would be that some sort of a county approval system that, 2 weeks before an event, whatever it is you would decide, you would show your plan to the county health officer, and the county health officer would have 2 days to grant approval of the event, something like that.
Okay.
And I guess I would probably add to that too, because there are some of these people are on power trips, unfortunate to say. But I would think I would include with that when you apply, there is presumptive approval. So you're starting with approval, and they have to explain why they would not approve your particular event.
Okay. Well, and if in our process of setting it up, we show we've met all the standards and we can bring it to these people, like you said, it would be harder for them to say no.
Right. Yeah. Because if you don't have presumptive approval, they can come up with just about anything.
Yeah.
To try and shut you down.
Interesting.
So anyways, that's kind of what I would suggest in terms of all, this is great for basketball though, but we have lots of different sports, as we said. Tucker, is there a way to get the other sports, what they put together, sent over at all?
Yeah, I mean, all I have right now, I have my basketball, volleyball today, and then golf and baseball/softball went over last night. So I don't know if he's going to give access to each of us to the whole kit and caboodle. I don't know how, it's my first time on this, so I don't know how that's going to work, but I can definitely give you access to what we have done already.
Great.
Okay, that would be good.
Thank you. And if you do get a chance to ask if those others are available for sharing, we take them. So definitely take them, because it's better to start with something than from scratch, as you know. It takes time, especially when we have just a few days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and what he's put together there, I didn't read it all that closely as we were scanning through it, but it looked pretty thorough to me. I really don't think there are a lot of modifications you're going to have to make to that specifically for basketball. If it's good for Ohio, I would think it'd be good for Wisconsin. So maybe there would be, I don't know how, I assume the facilities in Ohio are similar to the facilities in Wisconsin. Just as you were going through it and I was looking at the seating, there was an indication that maybe we don't use the bleachers, which I can understand that, because you kind of would have to wipe down the bleachers all the time, because people are touching it, using their hands to touch it, et cetera, et cetera. That might be a consideration if you want to use the bleachers, that there's going to have to be somebody who's on bleacher wipe down duty, so to say, that between every game or something like that, the bleachers are cleared off and somebody comes over or a team of people goes in there and wipes down all the seats, and then everybody goes onto the bleachers once again. And maybe even that they're taped off by family units.
That was
One
part
family
of the
sits
bleachers
in
we
this square
discussed
and
that was
another
very
family
difficult. Was we just had trouble figuring out how we could make people social distance on bleachers. With the chairs, we can put X's on the floor. Bleachers is a very, very different monster, because they're just, they're very close. So that's why we tried to get away.
I agree. It's more challenging, but it would allow you to get more people into the facility, but that just may not be a possibility.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, gentlemen. So in terms of moving forward, I'll gather what Tucker sent Jeremy, and I took down some notes. We'll send you both back just a compilation of thoughts on how we can quickly move forward. And Jeremy, I guess I'll just make sure that if you can review that, to make sure that I know that I've got all the action steps listed. Because we have contacts, and I know I can push it out to different people and say, hey, are you willing to jump on and do your part? We're connected with, actually, one of our sponsors is OSMS, Orthopedic Specialists, in Green Bay and Appleton and Manitowoc. So we've got some, and then actually my marketing director VP's husband runs a company of anesthesiologists. So I know that there's just a lot of connections there that we can get the right people on this right away. So I'll pull something together, have you review it, make sure I'm not missing anything, and then just start running. I better get my running shoes on.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. But thank you, Tucker, for providing this. That's huge. It's better than starting from scratch, especially with our short timeline. And Jeremy, for bringing your expertise and wisdom and understanding on the legislative side and what's needed and what issues we might come across, especially, like you said, that county health officer. That'll be something that we would want to hit right away and address right away.
Yeah, because that question was asked of our county health officer here in Fond du Lac County. They said, so, well, if the Supreme Court says that the state is opening up, do you have the ability to lock down the county? And her answer was yes. So that's something to think about.
So basically you're saying if this extended order gets cut off on May 11th, even with that 6-day, let's say there's a 6-day lag of, hey, let's just pause and make sure we get new rules pushed out, that somebody like us who runs a health and fitness center, the county might then say, no, sorry, you're still a non-essential business and you're going to be closed for as long as we say?
That is the big question as to what level that would be allowed. Can they shut down the entire county? Historically, that hasn't been how that part of the statutes has worked. That has been a much more specific area or locality sort of order that's been put down, where they lock down a certain business or houses within a community, or people who maybe were in connection to a school where they had a local outbreak of some sort. That's kind of untested waters as to whether they can just simply shut a county down for a lengthy period of time. The only time it's really been done is, if you remember last fall when we had those huge storms up north that knocked down, tens of thousands of trees. And it was dangerous to travel because power lines were down all over the place. So in situations like that, I think they've done some of that, but that's never been a lengthy period of time. As soon as things are safe to travel again, they would just open it up. So this is a different animal than what we've seen before. So I don't want to impugn the county health officers as all being dictators or anything like that. But once again, these are people whose their healthcare is their thing, and they sometimes have a tendency to not have a wide view of all of society outside of just the healthcare field, and business interests and the people who are paying these social programs that we have in the state. There seems to be a disconnect in where all those programs comes from.
Right.
So that will be the next thing, but I'm hoping we'll have a positive decision here before the end of the day.
Well, thank you.
Good luck with that.
Do you guys want to say any final thoughts before we break?
No.
Since I missed you guys on the front end, since I started the recording late, do you mind if you say again who you are and what your background is, in case I need to explain? I actually have it in writing, video full force. That'd be great before I stop the recording.
Sure, I can start. I am State Representative Jeremy Thiesfeld from the 52nd District in the Wisconsin State Assembly, which is the Fond du Lac area. And I'm helping these groups out, navigating the excitement of the restrictions of the COVID-19 that have been put on Wisconsin by our governor.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jeremy. Tucker?
Tucker Neal. I run OhioBasketball.com. I'm on the governor's task force in Ohio. We're opening up sports, and I have created the guidelines for basketball and volleyball. Also helping out the Dallas metropolitan area, the state of Kentucky, and just dumping in with the state of Indiana.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys again. I appreciate all your help and support, and we'll be in touch.
Yep. Take care. Have a great day, guys. Nice meeting you.
Thanks.